I love t-shirts. I think it's probably because I wore a suit for so long. Um, as a mission president, 3 years, virtually every day, all day. And suits are probably one of the worst practical things out there clothing wise. Hot in the summer, not warm enough in the winter. To me, very uncomfortable. But for some reason, they're the uniform. I don't know. I mean, I don't think we can even visualize anything different than what we see at a pulpit, behind the pulpit, I should say. The white shirt, the tie, the suit, everything. You remember President McKay, and he had that light tan, very light tan, and sometimes a cool hat, Anyway, t-shirts, it's summer, it's awesome. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of things, and I'm already going to anticipate a drop in subscribers on this, and just when I think things are, I can come back to your channel, you bring this up again, and why are you so obsessed with it? Well, I don't know. Just because. Isn't that what kids say? Because. So in August 12th, 2021, I'm looking at it here on my computer screen. We had the letter come from the first presidency. And this ties in with our reading probably last week, I'm so all over the place with our reading because I don't like skipping chapters, but sometimes I have to because of just the time. And so anyway, we have Naaman, the Syrian. So it's kind of hard to tell a little bit about where Syria was at the time or what was considered Syria. But certainly if it's at the time now, if you're looking at a map of Israel, just head on, it would be to the north and a little east of the Golan Heights of current day Israel now. And then just opposite that on the west, so northwest of Israel, would be Lebanon. And I've actually probably put my finger in Syria from the Israel side. It's really cool where the 6-Day War, you can still see the remnants of that, 1967, 68, 67, I think. And the trenches and everything where that was really a front for the Israeli army and taking that. And it's just such a beautiful area, the Golan Heights and the beginnings of the Jordan River, the River Jordan. And it's just a pure creek, beautiful river, trout. You feel like you're, out in the west, seeing a nice trout stream. It's just spectacular. And the trees and the vegetation, it's just beautiful. So let's say that Naaman was from that portion and really an enemy, to the Israelites. But you have Elisha. Naaman has leprosy. Now, the reason why I bring the August letter up and this story is because I didn't do this. Someone else did this. And they used this story over and over again to prove the point, to get the jab and where and so this is the story. This one and the brazen serpent Moses raised up. Now let's look at the differences and why these two comparisons. We probably won't talk about the brazen serpent because I've done that, but we haven't really talked a lot about Naaman. Now, his servants were the ones that said, "Hey, we know a guy that can heal you of your leprosy," and leprosy is just so nasty, you know. It's very visible, number one, and so people are like, "Ooh," and it is contagious. But it just, you know, it's eating your skin away. And the significance of leprosy, and particularly Christ healing the leper and embracing and not being afraid of that is really inspiring, to think of not being afraid of something that's come about, I think, because of wickedness. I think that's how all diseases and all these things come out. It's the conspiring men bring this about, and wickedness in general bring about these things, and then we have to deal with them. So, having had the COVID-19, and Sue and I, for good or for bad, we had it for the most part during the same time period. I might have started a few days ahead of her, but it was wicked. It was bad. And we never were hospitalized. And the medication we received, okay, so just to be totally honest, I went and did a video conference with a doctor during the time, because I was just like, I had a bad cough, and all night long, right? Couldn't sleep. So he, with this video thing that ended up costing me like $170, you know, because we have a Christian health share, and you know, you pay, and it's kind of a hassle, but it's been good. It's been good, and much less expensive than regular medical insurance. It's interesting because when you're a mission president, you're on the church's insurance, and it's awesome. It's like unlike any insurance I've ever had. I've basically been self-insured. That's not true exactly, because when I had the trucking company, we had an insurance plan for employees and whatnot, and we were on that. But you know, it wasn't like the best, I guess, and the church's insurance is amazing, you know. So after we got off that, we had to immediately find something. And now we're at that age where we'll be going on Medicare at some point here, and I don't know. I don't know. I hate insurance. I hate it. One time when I blew out my ACL, this was years ago, I was able to negotiate with the doctor for a cash price, and then negotiate with the insurance company saying, "Hey, look, I saved a lot of money here, you know, can you help me out?" And it worked. It was awesome. So that's kind of how the Christian health share works a little bit. It's similar to that. The next time, well, I blew out my other ACL skiing on my other knee. In fact, I think it's the one that I have the total knee now replacement, but I blew my knee out on that. And I tried to do the same thing, and they're like, "What? We don't do things like that. You have to go through your insurance." And I said, "Yeah, but I could save everybody a lot of money. I'll pay cash, get it for the cash discount, then I'll turn in the thing, and then, you know, we all win." Like, no way. I don't know why I get off on these things, but in any event, I know that the COVID was real. Okay, I know. I'm not denying that, and I'm not denying that some people got really, really sick, and some people died, and some people are still suffering the effects of it. You know, that's for dang sure. What I'm dang it, I just lost that page. Um, there we go. What I think is interesting is using these biblical stories to back up something, and they're totally different. So we're going to get back on track here and stop talking about my health issues that I've had and insurance issues. So let's do this. Let's read the statement, and then let's just briefly go over the story of Naaman, and from Syria. He was a captain or something of the army, but let's read this, and I'm going to comment on this. Dear brothers and sisters, we find ourselves fighting a war against the ravages of COVID-19 and its variants, an unrelenting pandemic. We want to do all we can to limit the spread of these viruses. We know that protection from the disease they cause can only be achieved by immunizing a very high percentage of the population. Now, I want to focus on the word immunization. Now, that is different than being jabbed. It's different than that phrase, if you very carefully look at it, doesn't say that it's going to cure everybody. We know that protection from the diseases they cause can only be achieved by immunizing a very high percentage of the population. So immunization could be anything from a vaccine to natural immunity. That's where immunization comes from, of being exposed to it and building up the antibodies naturally. That includes everything. And once that's achieved, then it's not going to have the effect it has. That's what's happened with other viruses, right? Now I'm continuing to quote. To limit exposure to these viruses, we urge the use of face masks in public meetings whenever social distancing is not possible. So if you can social distance, and at that time, I believe it was 6 feet, you didn't need a face mask. That's how I read that. It's pretty hard to not read it any other way. So, and it said public meetings. So this wasn't just limited to church meetings, in my opinion, but public meetings. To provide personal protection from such severe infections, we urge individuals to be vaccinated. Now, the word urge is very interesting, for personal protection from severe infections. Now, now let's look at this. This is where it gets kind of sticky. Now that we've had almost a year, we're into July, this came out in August, we're almost a year where the vaccines were about a year and a half into it. But this letter that really, got the LDS community, the Latter-day Saint community, jumping on board, we can see now that the protection from severe infections, we urge individuals to be vaccinated. Available vaccines have proven to be both safe and effective. Now, having a year behind us now, we see that a lot of people who had the vaccine still were infected by the virus. Now, what is said then is that the severity would be less if you had the vaccine. Now, that's an unproven statement. You can't You can't prove that. There's just no way, because how do you, if you've had the vaccine and then you get the virus, how do you know that the virus would be worse if you hadn't had the vaccine? You can't, because everyone was so differently affected. Some had very mild cases even early on, and then during the I can't remember the different variants. Some got more severe and others. But even during all those times, everyone and everybody is different. We're all affected by our environment differently, and some a great portion of people were neither vaccinated nor had the effects of COVID. It's true. It's true. I think I can hear our little granddaughter crying. I don't mind that sound at all. In fact, in sacrament meeting, I love to hear the sound of kids and children. It's just awesome. The words, though, urging and things have been proven, available vaccines have proven to be both safe and effective. Now look, if you're looking at this as a prophetic statement, that could be a little sticky for you. It really could. Because the virus continues. It continued, right? It's continuing, even though the majority of people are vaccinated, right? So it hasn't disappeared. And I can't remember if I did this on one of my predictions, but if I did, this is a repeat. If I didn't, then this is an addition. My prediction is this fall, probably close to election time, we will see an outbreak, particularly in big cities, of COVID, and maybe back to the mandates that go on. Okay, I'll finish this quoting. We can win this war if everyone will follow the wise and thoughtful recommendations of medical experts and government leaders. That's the president of the corporation, the president of the church, the first presidency, as this was signed, saying, listen to them, listen to them, listen to them, follow them. Follow the wise and thoughtful recommendations of medical experts and government leaders. Now, whether we think Fauci is an expert and whether he's wise or thoughtful, I don't know. I have my opinions, but I don't know. Government leaders, I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know if they mean that everything that we're hearing from media and government and medical, the CDC and WHO, the World Health Organization, all those, I don't know if that's who they're referring to. It kind of looks like that's who they're going with. Now, if we go backwards and look at that, we were told a lot of things that changed along the way, and it changed drastically. It was, this will prevent, this procedure will prevent, and then it was, it will lessen the effects of the virus, so get that. If you get this, it'll take care of it. But then it was, now then you need this, and then you need this. And so it was changing. It was changing. Now, one thing I thought was interesting is there was never a statement about the second and third, and in some cases the fourth. There was also not a statement as the age dropped, that was encouraged to get, up to, what is it now, 6 months old? Yeah. So Does this sound like the story of Naaman? Does it really sound like the story of Naaman? Naaman was told specifically by the prophet, you do this, you will be cured. You will be cured. Is that what we're hearing in this letter? Now, I've done a lot of videos on the corporate side versus the ecclesiastical or the spiritual, or, the president versus the prophet, that kind of thing. Look, it's pretty clear. So Naaman, he has leprosy. His servants go, hey, we've heard of a guy, and he knows he's connected to God. He's connected to the God of Israel, and we know how powerful that God is. And let's go to him. Well, Naaman goes, and what happens? I don't know whether Elisha was like, I don't want to be around a leper, but he just says, go tell him to bathe in the Jordan River. Now, I'm assuming this is up, higher, by higher. I'm looking at a map. So you'd have the Dead Sea and the Jordan, the River Jordan going up to the Sea of Galilee. Actually, it flows down. So somewhere below Galilee, but above the Jordan River, or above the Dead Sea, somewhere there in the Jordan River, the River Jordan, Naaman was, right? And if we think of where Elisha was, it was in the Samaria region of Israel. So below Galilee a little bit, and above Jerusalem, kind of that region is where we're thinking this. That's where I think this took place. So he goes. He first gets mad that Elisha didn't come out himself, but he's convinced. Okay, I'll do it. And whether he did it, bam, 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 I didn't count, but 7 times. Or whether it was once a day for 7 days, or whatever he did, I don't know, but he did it, and he was cured. Now, just briefly going back to the brazen serpent Moses raised up, a representation of Christ being raised up on the cross, and if you look, you will live. If you look, you will live. These are very specific promises. Not saying go do what someone else says you should do, but do exactly what I'm telling you to do, and everything's going to be fine. So if we looked at that statement in August as a prophetic statement, we could get a little questioning, because there were people that continued to die that did this and did this and this and this, and they still died of the virus. So what, where do we go with that? Now, if you're someone like me who goes, you know what, that's got corporate all over it, and I kind of get why they did it, just to kind of keep things flowing, keep the corporation moving, so the government, and it's interesting that word was used. For me, that's the sign right there. Look, we gotta make these guys happy to keep things going. And it really pushed the responsibility on the medical and the government, that what they provide is going to provide personal protection from severe infection. For who? For how many? You see what I'm saying? Whereas Naaman, it was absolute. You do this, you will be cured. You look at the brazen serpent, Moses said, you will not die. You will be protected from the fiery serpents. So there's a huge difference, huge difference, a huge difference. And to compare those two, and I heard this from, some mid-management individuals. I heard this comparison and I just like, but I know we're past that. But every time now that I read this story of Naaman, there it is. There it is. It's a reminder. Same thing with the brazen serpent. It's a reminder. And I think we need to be very, very careful to use these comparisons when we're speaking from a pulpit or, and go, wait a minute. I was thinking the other day, there's two things I'd love to see. And that is heckling in professional golf, PGA or the live tournaments. I would love to see, kind of like the Happy Gilmore kind of thing, where you could actually, you're gonna miss, right when they're swinging, kind of like free throws in the NBA. The crowd, they're banging those things, and I think it would enhance golf tremendously instead of the shh, hush, hush, So I'd love to see heckling, but how in English Parliament, I think in Canada as well, when someone's speaking and there's a disagreement, they immediately voice, boo, or they clap, or do this, or it would be. I'm not saying I want this, but it would be interesting if there was that type of response in a sacrament meeting, when people either bear testimony or speak, where you could go, amen, amen, yes, right on, or the opposite, like, I don't get it, it doesn't make sense to me, instant feedback, instant thing. Now look, I'm not asking for a change, I'm just saying it would really be nice, but we sit there dutifully, we listen, we hear things sometimes, and personally, I'd love it if I was up there and someone was booing me, and it'd be fun to engage. Some of the early church meetings were that way with Joseph. We have it recorded. Or Joseph would hear somebody speaking and he'd say, I don't know. I don't think this is right, what you're saying. And so we have that a bit in our history, but we've turned it into this very, and obviously it's because the sacrament is there. But I say as soon as the sacrament's done, game on. We'd probably need an age limit so we wouldn't appear to be bullying if it was one of the younger speakers. But, I'm just kidding. Anyway, sort of. So, I don't know how I got off on that, but anyway, we need to be careful. That's where it was. We need to be careful when we're trying to use these comparisons, because to me, there's no comparison. Naaman, brazen serpent, Moses, the miracles performed by prophets, the promises made by prophets, to a very corporate sounding first presidency letter, stating that, and then comparing the two. Now, it says what it says. I'm not going to argue anything. And they're the presidency of the church. They're representing the church, the corporation of the church, and they say what they say. But to compare those two stories, not even close, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to go to one other thing, totally switching gears. I was listening to this YouTube channel a couple of days ago. I think it was Sunday morning. It's called Off the Curb Ministries. Off the Curb Ministries. It's just, this guy is so good. He's a British preacher, a younger guy, and he just seems like a person without guile. not edgy, doesn't have like a lot of rough edges, like someone like me might have. And I love listening to him, but he brought up something that I just thought was amazing. And I might add a little to it, but I want to give him the credit. This wasn't an original thought on my part at all. I wish it was. But it goes back to, and we'll go to it. If we go to John chapter 20, I think it is. John chapter 20. So we've had the suffering of Christ. We've had the death of Christ on the cross. He's been buried in the tomb. And now Mary Magdalene. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to who Mary was in relationship to Christ. Possible that they were married. A lot of things said about Mary from other faiths that really are derogatory. But this crystallized everything for me about Mary and who she was. And I thought this good brother from Off the Curb Ministry, and if I think about it, I'll leave the link in the comment section. I'll pin it for this particular video because it was so good, and all of his videos are good. But if we go to let's go to verse 15. So we're in John, the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 15. And Jesus said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seek thou? She supposed him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. And that's amazing, because how's she going to lift him? The body. There's so many cool things here. And Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Now listen to this. And Jesus said unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. So he was connecting Mary to him in relationship to the Father. I just think that is so beautiful. But the word I want to focus on is the word touch me not. Now, as a missionary and as a person in church, I was taught, well, his body, was such that, it couldn't be touched. Never made sense to me. Like, well, he's resurrected. Why couldn't, doubting Thomas was able to touch and feel. So why the ascension to heaven is important? Why physically was she not allowed to touch him? Now we get in, because now the off the curb ministry didn't say this, but he said, I think he used the word cling onto me not. So that changes the words. Now I have a couple of different Bibles here that I like to use. This one's called the Jewish Voice Bible. I really like this one, the Jewish Voice Bible. And this is how it reads there. Yeshua says to her, Stop clinging to me, for I have not yet gone up to the Father. Go to my brothers and tell them, I am going up to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. So stop clinging to me. I've got to go. Now this one here, I love this one. I don't know if you can read that very well, but this is the modern English version, and I really like this Bible as well. And this is how this one is. And before you get all freaked out, I will go to the Joseph Smith translation as well. So this one says, Jesus said unto her, stop holding on to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. So stop holding on to me. So that's different because she is holding on to him. Okay? Now, the inspired version, if you just go back to our King James Version, and you look at the footnote under touch me not, and then you go down and the Joseph Smith translation says, hold me not, hold me not. So you combine all these and it's very clear that she is touching him and she's holding him. Now, we do need to go to Mosiah 18 to get a little understanding of this. And then we're going to wrap this up. So Mosiah 18 and verse 2 really is the gospel in a nutshell. I've talked about this before. Verse 2, in kind of the middle of the verse, which was to be brought to pass through the power and sufferings and the death of Christ and his resurrection and his ascension into heaven. So the ascension into heaven, I mean, God's not going to let his son go through all that and without saying, yeah, postpone your time with me. That was part of the whole gospel of what Christ did for us. And that, think of that reunion of him going to the Father. And God wasn't going to postpone that. You know, you got to come up. We got to embrace. You did it. You accomplished everything that I asked you to do. You did it. So that ascension was important. And so Christ is saying, stop clinging to me. And what this preacher said from Off the Curb Ministries YouTube channel is he said, wouldn't it be nice if Christ had to say that to us? Think how loyal Mary was. You went away from me for 3 days. I'm not letting go of you. Think of how cool it would be if Christ had to say to us, look, guys, got to stop clinging to me. I'll be back. I'm coming back, but I've got to go to some other places. So it's, and then he compared this to and we're going to be reading, well, we read this already, sorry. But Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and in the time of Israel, and our prophets talked about this, President Nelson has talked about this, let God prevail. That came from when Jacob had a wrestle with God, with Jehovah. We find out it was Jehovah. It says an angel, but we find out later it was Jehovah himself. And he wouldn't let go until you bless me. So it's kind of the same thing. And then he let God prevail. He let God prevail. And his name was changed to Israel at that point. So real similar as to Mary hanging on to Jesus. And he said, look, you got to let go of me. I got to ascend to the Father. Go tell the brethren, I'm coming back. So Mary was, without question, the most devoted disciple of Jesus Christ. She was with him through the whole thing. The whole thing. And she's the first that he comes back to see. So significant. So significant. This Off the Curb minister, I can't remember his name, but he compares this with I can't remember the guy's name, but Lyndon B. Johnson was the president. And he needed to get a hold of this guy, probably a cabinet member or somebody, I can't remember. And he calls and gets his secretary. And he goes, this is LBJ. I need to talk to so-and-so. And his secretary says, well, he's taking a nap. And Lyndon B. Johnson says, well, you wake him up. I need to talk to him. I'm the president of the United States. And she goes, oh, I understand that, President, but I work for him, not you, and I'm not waking him up. And LBJ goes, I need that woman working for me because she is loyal. And that's what Mary was to Christ. And that's what we need to be, is we want to be the ones that are clinging on to Jesus, where he has to say, don't cling to me. Because if he doesn't need to say that, then we're not even around. We're not even thinking of him. I think it's one of the greatest sermons, that particular story and that example of Mary Magdalene. It's just priceless. It's eternal. It's a wonderful principle. Having been to Magdala, where pretty sure that's where Mary was from, off the Sea of Galilee. I've been there a couple of times, and the Spirit there, and there's a synagogue that they're excavated there that really is the time of Christ, and it's almost assuredly that Christ taught in that synagogue, and perhaps that's where he met Mary. And once she realized who Christ was, the Son of God, she never looked back, and she clung to him. And that's what we need to do. God bless you. Love you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your comments. Just powerful. God bless. Talk to you soon. Bye.